Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Dr. Kevin Parvaresh, who is here on behalf of Hoag Orthopedic Institute. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. It's a wonderful opportunity to be here.
Well, it's really nice that you've been able to be with us because I do know that you're new to HOI, and we just wanted to meet you and let our residents see who the new face in town. So tell me a little bit about, we kind of went over this beforehand, but just give me a brief background on yourself and where you have been in terms of your schooling.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks again for having me. So I grew up in San Diego, just down the coast, stayed there through high school, and then decided to explore a different part of the country. So I went over to the East Coast for undergrad at Georgetown in Washington, D.C., which was wonderful to be there and to have that opportunity. And I was fortunate enough to be able to stay there for medical school. So I spent all 8 years out there. And then decided I missed home, so I came back to San Diego for my orthopedic residency training. And just to round out my experience, I went to Rush in Chicago to explore the Midwest and get my subspecialty training in sports medicine, shoulder, hip, and knee. And thankfully still back here, though, for practice.
Well, the weather sure is better.
That's for sure. Yes, that was not too fun of a year from a weather standpoint, but I was told it was a mild winter, though I still needed really heavy coats.
Well, not mild for Californians, I'm sure.
That's for sure. Yeah.
So shoulder, hip, and knee, and now you're now with HOI, and you specialize in sports medicine. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, sports medicine, and I also do shoulder replacements. So I deal with a lot of people with shoulder arthritis as well.
Okay. Did you play sports yourself?
I did. I grew up playing football, soccer, and running track. I ended up actually running track at Georgetown for their D1 program while I was there. And then eventually hung up the cleats and focused on my medical career. But I do still love playing and watching sports and treating athletes of all ages.
Well, that was kind of a leading question into what I'm going to ask you now, because our residents of Laguna Woods Village are an extremely active group, and it's from 55 on up, and they play a lot of tennis, a lot of pickleball, a lot of golf. And so I'm sure that they will look to you, number one, because you are an athlete yourself. You'll understand their aches and pains and their ailments with their knees. As well as, shoulder too, because most of the sports, obviously the racket ones are requiring the shoulder. So what are some of the things that you're seeing out of our community, or what are the common ones that you would see in this age group?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have played pickleball myself. My aunt got me into that. And then my wife was a tennis champion in high school. And so she always beats me, but I do play with her there too. So some of the things I see very commonly with those and golf, as far as the shoulder goes, are rotator cuff injuries, inflammation or tearing of the rotator cuff, shoulder impingement, and then issues with the biceps tendon and shoulder dysfunction as a result of some muscle imbalance. And so those are quite common presenting factors that I see with patients that come in. As far as the lower extremity stuff, I actually do get a number of people who have hip issues, whether it's impingement, early arthritis, or by bursitis of the gluteal area, including tears of the gluteal tendons, and those can be severely debilitating for some people.
Right.
And then lastly, as far as the knee goes, probably the most common are just sprains and strains, but I do get a number of people who have injuries to their meniscus and occasionally even ACL tears, even within that age group.
So talk to me a little bit about what you mentioned with bursitis. And is that, so I understand that I had an injury in my bursa sac in my hip area. So
Yeah.
If somebody has that kind of an injury, do you have to have that operated on or not?
So no, everyone is individual, and I kind of treat every patient based on both what they have, but also what their goals are. And and what their lifestyle is like. And so nobody that walks in my clinic usually has to have surgery, but bursitis is something that essentially is where a potential space that's normally for gliding motion of the hip becomes inflamed. And that can be for a variety of factors, whether it's overuse, improper mechanics, or actually tearing of the tendons around there. Most commonly, the treatment involves some form of physical therapy with anti-inflammatories, either in a pill form or with an injection. But it does occasionally necessitate surgery in patients that are really having a difficult time functionally and also haven't had any relief from those other things.
I see. And that is recoverable? I mean, would they go back to their normal?
Yeah, they would go back pretty much to make a full recovery. If it's just bursitis, they go back to sports with no limitations, going on hikes, bike rides, swimming, really whatever they want to do. And the bursitis itself is quite a short recovery from that. If they do have tendon tearing that requires repair, that is actually a bit of a longer recovery, similar to like the rotator cuff of the shoulder. However, those people are still getting back in action full go.
Is that a non-invasive surgery or treatment, or is it invasive?
So I typically try to do minimally invasive surgery when I can. I was trained on hip arthroscopy and endoscopy, which is essentially just putting the camera outside the joint. And so with the bursitis, it's outside the joint. And I do it with just a few small poke holes with tendon reattachment, which is the same way we do it for the shoulder. There are certain cases, if it's chronic or the tendon quality is not good enough, that I do a small mini open incision, but typically it's really small.
Oh, okay, good. Well, that's nice, because I would imagine the recovery is less as opposed to full surgery.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you're at HOI now. What do you like best?
So I think my partners have been an amazing contribution to me getting started here. All the surgeons have been very helpful in terms of providing me with support and feedback and assistance, even helping me with my surgeries when I need them to. So it's just such a wonderful team that Hoag has established here with us from the ground up in terms of the facilities, the assistant staff. And I have a wonderful assistant that started with me. Her name's Jessica. She's been here with Hoag for 7 years. So she's seen a lot too, particularly with the shoulder. And so thankfully I'm lucky enough to have her on my team as well.
That's great. And one of these days we might see you on Doctor in the Dugout.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah.
I'm sure he's got his eye on you. You never know. You might not.
You never know. That would be great. Yeah, I'd be happy to do it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Welcome. And it was very nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you too. And I'm just so happy to be a part of the community. And I'd love to get a chance to know everyone better. So you all take care.
All right. Thank you again.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. And we'll be right back after this.